Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Sacred Healing Purified Drinking Water. Take a sip. We are going to be diving in deep on tonight. We have the no other than Halo Divine that's going to be breaking down the truth and knowledge about mental health. Tonight, we'll be coming and talking about paranoid personality disorder. So I'm going to hand this over to Halo, and she's going to go into detail about this disorder and what it does and what some things that she has experienced in her past with these things. Halo, it's all yours, sweetheart.
All right, so I have a reading that came off of WebMD. That's our source, and I'm gonna kind of go into it a little bit and do a little explanations, and then I'm gonna do a little relating to my life as well. So first, it says paranoid personality disorder, also known as PPD, is a group of is one of a group of conditions called cluster A personality disorder, which involves odd or eccentric ways of thinking. People with PPD also suffer from paranoia, an unrelated mistrust, and suspicion of others, even when there is no reason to be suspicious. This disorder usually begins by early adulthood and appears to be more common in men than women. So now we're going to talk about the symptoms. What are the symptoms of paranoid personality disorder? People with PPD are always on guard, believing that others are constantly trying to demean, harm, or threaten them. These generally unfounded beliefs, as well as their habits of blame and distrust, might interfere with their ability to form close relationships. Now, here's some bullet points. People with this disorder doubt the commitment, loyalty, or trustworthiness of others, believing that others are using or deceiving them. Um, are reluctant to confide in others to reveal personal information due to fear that the information will be used against them, are unforgiving and hold grudges, are hypersensitive and take criticism poorly, read hidden meanings in the innocent remarks or casual looks of others, perceive attacks on their character that are not apparent to others. They generally react with anger and are quick to retaliate, have recurrent suspicion about without reason that their spouses or lovers are being unfaithful, are generally cold and distant in their relationships with others and might become controlling and jealous, cannot see the role in problems or conflict and believe they're always right, have difficulty relaxing, are hostile, stubborn, or argumentative. So that's basically what the reading says from WebMD. And I'm going to talk about a couple of these that really resonate with me because my disorder, schizoaffective, is a psychosis paranoid disorder. And I deal with a lot of paranoia. So I can relate to a lot of these bullet points. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So um, the loyalty and trustworthiness of others, definitely. Um, Reluctant to confide in others, definitely. Um, are unforgiving and hold grudges, definitely. Um, I don't take criticism poorly all the time.
Mm-hmm.
One time I was just anytime that I am with my parents and they tell me anything that I've done wrong, or if I'm at my job and I get a bad remark from my boss, or I'm always argumentative and I'm always like, but this or maybe that, or how do you know this? Because it doesn't sit well with me. And I'm always
Sure.
like, there's no way that I could be wrong, and which just seems so horrible. But I take criticism very poorly, and I tell people that all the time, especially my parents, because they're kind of critics because like that's just life. Like you do something wrong,
Right.
and someone's gonna tell you. So, um, but like reading hidden meanings and innocent remarks and casual looks of others, that's kind of a very paranoid perception because um, I guess like someone could be looking at you smiling,
Right.
and you could be thinking like, why are they smiling? Were they just laughing at me? Were they just talking about me? Did I just walk into the room and people are smiling at me and they just got done talking about me? But really, it's just like someone could be admiring you or anything like
Right.
that.
Right.
Um, and then like um, things like holding grudges
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that relationships have issues because we become controlling and jealous. That's
Okay.
for sure. I know my last relationship, I know when I first started it, I thought my boyfriend was cheating on me constantly. And that's
Mm,
something that I finally don't do anymore. But when I was about 20 and 21 at the time, and I just swore up and down that I was getting cheated on, but nothing was
mm,
going on, but I just swore it. And even to this day, like in other relationships, like if someone's not picking up my phone calls or if I don't get a text back,
right.
it's like, what's going on, but
Right.
now I'm a little more like, it's been 8 years, so I'm kind of like, okay, he's not cheating, but
Exactly.
like, and it causes
Well, yeah, and
feelings.
look, it took you eight. Listen, honey, it took you 8 years to still think
Yes.
this. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
hey, the struggle is real.
It's very real.
The struggle is real.
Took me
Exactly.
8 whole years. It wasn't up until about a month ago, not even a month ago, that I finally was like, when I have these feelings, I'm just gonna do something to occupy my mind, because
Mm-hmm.
if I dive into it, or if I think more about it and don't transfer my thoughts onto something else, then I'm gonna like really convince myself that I'm getting cheated on, that I'm gonna do something stupid,
Right.
like talk to somebody else or ruin the relationship, and then it's all my fault. And then it's like,
Right.
then back then I was standing on things like, no, you cheated on me. I'm out here for the streets now. Like, it's
Right.
it's over with now. I'm
And
never
that
gonna
was the
forgive you.
paranoia.
And it was all paranoia. Nothing was going on.
How
And it's
long
not
does
like,
it?
but it's not as simple as just like I think my man's cheating on me, like that women's intuition, like that just goes out the window. I haven't had that since I've been on this disorder. I don't even know what that is. Like
Okay.
people say all the time, and I would say, oh, I have my women's intuition and I just know he's cheating on me. But I was really paranoid. Like I would really think every time, like for no reason. Like it wouldn't even be like an inclination of anything. And just if I don't hear from you, or if you're not picking up my phone calls, that's enough for me. And it's like, really, it
Yeah,
really
really. Yeah,
wasn't
that's
that
enough
deep.
for you to. Yeah. So and that how long did the paranoia last at times?
I mean, it would, because what happens is it would go from like your first thought, like, okay, well, he didn't pick up the phone when he's with his friends, so he's
Mm-hmm.
obviously has a bunch of girls over there, and they're all, and then every time he goes over there, he's, that's what he's doing. So it would go on
Okay.
for like months, and then like once I got into my head, it was like in my head. So I really didn't stop believing that until a little while ago, when I kind of decided, like, okay, well, when he does pick up and he's not with anyone, what's the difference? I had to kind of think,
Right.
there's
Okay.
no difference between like these times when he picks up and the times when he doesn't. Or, sometimes, I don't know, like, I don't know.
Is
It
it
just, I
so?
had to like
Is it
start
just
and
okay? Now, so is it, do you have those feelings with when you go into paranoia with other things?
yes, I do. Let me think. So, um, like, sometimes I feel like if my sister doesn't pick up the phone for me, that she doesn't like me, or like that she doesn't want to be in my life, or things like that.
Okay.
When really she's at work and she can't pick up the phone, and then she texts me 5 minutes later, like, I'm at work, and I'm like, oh, okay. But like, I really don't even feel guilty for my thoughts and feelings of like that. I'm really getting so deep into, like, I kind of dive off the edge of mistrust. It's like if it goes
Okay.
from like something as simple as, oh man, I wish, like a normal person would probably say something like, man, I wish they weren't bitches so they could talk to me. But I go on to like, man, I wish that they loved me, or I wish that
Right.
we grew closer. But really, there's no
Right.
inclination of closeness. It's just the fact that I haven't, like, you're just busy.
So
People get busy, and so
what it sounds like, with your paranoia as well. Do you hear that feedback on your side? Sorry, guys, she had to go back out and come back in. We're gonna just take a moment, but if you can kind of see how the situation with paranoia, how difficult it could be from them to diverse from what reality is and what is actual paranoia. Um, I am a witness to that with Halo and her, where she goes into those situations and where she does, there is no trusting at all, and she will literally think that you have it out for her. So yeah, she is telling the truth about that. And I think sometimes in a person's life, they can experience paranoia, um, especially if you could be if you're under a lot of stress. That could really affect what's going on too. You can have a paranoid tendency type things if you're under really stress. You're not thinking straight and stuff. And there are circumstances that you can actually have a some symptoms of paranoia. I don't know if you ever experienced when you maybe think that there's something that has been bothering you, and so you keep emphasizing on it and you keep dwelling in it, and before you know it, it's just like, okay, you think if everybody has it out for you, you can't trust nobody. Even one little slight little negative thing, you're paranoid about. Oh yeah, they're after me. They don't have good intentions. And it could be different trigger things to where it could really take you back to when you were kind of going through things. Yeah, thank you, Halo. I'd let them know that we had a little technical difficulty, and your auntie had to hold it down.
Oh
I was getting
my
listen. Let me
God.
tell you what. After everybody didn't experience a little paranoia, I'm starting to think, something might be going on here with me. 'Cause she's about to be off this camera, and how am I going to be over here handling it all by myself? But no, it's all good.
No,
I
my
just
phone
held
just
it down.
died. I apologize, y'all. My phone
Yeah,
just
because you
died.
was kind of going out. I was like, what is that
It
noise?
was going on. I didn't know if that was your phone or mine. Okay. All right, let's get back into it.
Okay, so
So,
anyway, yeah, I asked you, that's not just with the relationship with your boyfriend, but also with other relationships where you have that. That's where we left off about when you said your sister sometimes won't answer the phone, and then that's where you were going.
yeah, or sometimes like friends and family, if they say something, I'll read into it like really deeply, and like it'll just be like a little bit too much. But like, and it's never in a positive way either. It's always in like a negative,
Hmm.
like connotation. Like it's always like they probably don't like me, or maybe I don't know.
That's in, and you know what? And I was explaining when you were off too that some people and even like myself can have times in our life where we feel that way. And I know that one trigger point that is if you're overly stressed
Yeah.
and you haven't first of all, if you're overly stressed, a lot of times you're not getting a good amount of sleep, and your mind is foggy, it's not as clear. So any little thing that could have been a trigger now becomes prevalent, and then anybody else who comes in after that, you're kind of thinking, here we go again. I don't trust you. I haven't, if you're not doing this, then I don't trust you. So it's like whatever had triggered your trust issues in the prior past, there are certain triggers that can get you to where now you're thinking this again because it's a familiar feeling. That's where
Yeah.
I was talking about when you came back in, which is true because a lot of people may not look at it like that. Oh, they answer in their phone, which really goes back to a symptom that somebody who was not trustworthy, when they didn't answer the phone, that's what you thought because that was going on. And now you're in a new relationship. They don't answer that phone. You're like, wait a minute, this is familiar. This
Yeah.
could possibly happen. This could possibly happen. So there's a highly possibility. So our mind keeps playing with that highly possibility. And then you be sitting there getting all mad because it really brings back what was really so true to you.
Yeah, and so paranoia is something that I think everyone can experience,
Uh-huh.
but the disorder just makes it like a everyday sort of like very common, more often sort of thing. Like
Right.
when it becomes a disorder, it's because you kind of feel that way in every situation or most situations, or
Yeah.
a lot of things trigger you. And a lot of disorders are triggered by trauma. So, maybe that something traumatic could have happened where you were in something happened to you where a family member could have done something
Right.
and you felt a certain type of way. Now you just assume that anytime something like that happens, that's what's going on. But they call these things confounds, where it's really a third, it's really the third option.
Okay.
It's like the unforeseen option. It's like it's not A or B. It's not even, it's the third thing that you weren't even thinking about.
Right.
So yeah.
Wow. And see, here we go. Like you said, you're dealing with this every day.
Yeah.
On top of the other disorder, which can you explain? You had that you're now we're talking about paranoid disorder. That's just one, but now tell them what else that you deal with on top of that?
So besides paranoia, I deal with like delusional thoughts. And that's it's like it's kind of like it reminds you of the aspect of paranoia where you kind of like perceive things wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really understand situations.
Mm-hmm.
um so for instance, one time I okay, well, this was pretty heavy, but I'm gonna get into it just because for the sake of the show, you know.
Yes.
But I don't like talking about this. I'm gonna tell you the truth. But so there was some traumatic things that happened to me that evolved around rape and stuff. And
Okay.
so I would, whenever people will like joke about stuff like that or make crude jokes about rape, because like it is a topic that it is funny sometimes. It made me feel uncomfortable, and it would give me these delusional thoughts of like, um, well, maybe something's going on. So
Right.
there were these two people that well, actually three people that would always joke about it, and then I would like think, like, oh well, maybe two of them are actually just joking because they actually, it's like something happened, but no,
Gotcha.
they're just
So
making
you're looking
jokes.
into it deeper. Like you're
Very,
looking into
very,
it.
very
Yeah.
deep. I'm going to explain some more.
Right.
So
I get
I
you.
thought, I thought that one of the person had raped the other person, and that's why they were joking about it, because the one that would always bring up the joke was trying to deal with it. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I'm a psychologist, so I just know, like, she's just having some sort of like, outbursts or whatever, which is the only way she knows how to deal with it. And
Right.
so what ended up happening was they would always like do this weird hug thing from the back, and I would, and it wasn't
Mm.
weird into a normal person, but at the time it was weird to me, because I kept thinking about like molestation and rape and how they were just very close to each other, and then they would joke about it, and they, and they just
Ah,
kept, and
I got
it
you.
kept triggering me. So I ended up thinking, okay, well, he's raping her, so I should do something about it. So I ended up calling the police one time when I was manic on the one that I thought was doing the raping,
Mm.
and I was trying to get him put in jail or something. And I ended up, the police actually came to the house and like beat him up and stuff. And like, I don't even remember the whole story, if he ended up going
Right.
to jail or whatever. But it was like, it was a delusional thought based
Mhm.
around like,
Your
trauma
paranoia.
triggers that were like happening just because they kept talking about rape. And I was
Right.
uncomfortable with it. I didn't know how to process it. So I would have these thoughts, and it went from like this innocent joke, like, I don't remember the jokes, but these innocent little back and forth jokes that they would talk about, whatever, and I never was involved in it. I would just be around when they would say it,
Right.
and I would think like, well, maybe they're talking about me, or maybe she's just a cry for help. Maybe she needs
Right.
me to do something.
And I can
But
see
it
that
had
because
nothing to do with me or anything, and I just got
right.
delusional, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's getting raped. I gotta
Right.
do something about it, and then I did, and then I ended up having to go to the hospital because I was manic and all this stuff. But it was a lot. It was a
And
lot.
then like another thing too, you got to understand too is when you on top of that, you're still a human who has feelings, who has emotions attached to that. You know what I'm saying? So on top
Hmm.
of your being your manic, not only that, you still love that person enough to still have concern, whether or not as realistically or not, you're still have in that protective mode. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was going to be in your natural anyway. And you were, like you said, you were trying to cipher out like, okay, am I supposed to be reading into this because they're too afraid to say anything bluntly out? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
and the
saying?
crazy thing is, I even asked. Like, I think I asked her one time,
Oh
like,
my
like,
gosh.
did you get
Okay,
raped? And she was like,
right,
no. Why would you ask me that? And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna let it go. But
right,
then
right,
the jokes kept happening, and I'm like, well, if she didn't get raped, why are these jokes still happening?
right. And
Why
I
is
get
this
what
still
you're
something that's
saying.
a topic in our conversation
I get
constantly?
what you're saying. I get what you're saying
It
because,
didn't make any sense to me, and I went for a loop.
well, you know what? Thank the good Lord that it worked out the way that it did.
Yeah,
You
he ended
know,
up getting hurt, but at least, at least, at least he's okay now,
yeah, yeah. That's
and
fine.
he
And
forgives
you
me.
know what? But you know what? Let me tell you what. We have a graceful God. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? We really do, Halo, at the end of the day. And my goodness, for some of the things that we could, possibly um, do in our lives, whether we bring laughter or we bring, sadness or whatever, um,
Mm-hmm.
that, that God will always have, and we pray for a forgiving heart.
Yeah.
And that's
Most
more
definitely.
important. You know what I'm saying? Because that's life, Halo. We have to have forgiving hearts, because some of us can make some, bad decisions. But at the end of the day, you really want the people who are close to you to really forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? At the same time, while I'm growing,
Yeah.
and a lot of people I think they tend to not give each other just a little bit of grace in
Mm.
those growing moments. Just a little bit of grace in those growing moments.
Yeah, that's why I think God really blessed me with the people I'm surrounded by, because I definitely need a lot of grace when it comes to
Right,
every
right,
day. I do a lot of
right,
crazy stuff. Like I do, I shouldn't say
right.
this,
But
but I
aren't
do
you
a lot of crazy
thankful?
stuff. Like I do a lot of stuff that just is a little bit off the wall.
Right,
So it's like, if I wasn't surrounded by these forgiving people, or if I wasn't surrounded by people that really like knew like, okay, this isn't her, this is the disorder, or she's
right,
going through something right now, then like I probably would be all by myself. And that's probably why those people on the streets are
so,
by themselves. Somebody
so
gave up on them.
talk
I hope
about
that
it,
nobody give
Halo.
up on me, because this is gonna be a lifetime thing. This is
Right,
forever. Like,
talk
we
about it,
in it
Halo,
together,
about
locked in.
how a support group is very important, like you just said.
Yeah.
And then you just say that's probably what happened to when you see them on the streets, because their support system just either they didn't have it or they just couldn't take it anymore. What do you think?
I think I think a lot of these people, one, don't have a support system to begin with. A lot of people don't have families,
Uh
or
huh.
they're estranged, or they've run off by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people have given up on them. Like, it's like after a while, it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
Maybe like I don't really like. I totally can understand. Like, like somebody just being like, fine, you want to go, you can learn your lesson. Especially when
Right.
people don't understand, like that's the only way that it's gonna get worse. If you give
Right.
up, there's no coming back. Like there's no like return. There's no one out there just like pulling people off the street. Like, hey, do you have a disorder? Let me help you get you off the
Right.
street. They're
That's
like,
true.
let me, here, we'll open up a homeless shelter, but you gotta find your way here and you gotta find your way back. We don't always have rooms. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing there to like probably, I don't know for a fact, but to help them find a psychiatrist or psychologist, or get them on medication, or get them to a mental hospital or something like that, to see if they have disorders. There really should be people like in these homeless shelters. There should be someone there to see like maybe if these people have mental disorders, if they can like help them. There should be more resources at these places.
And
I
you're
feel like.
absolutely right. Let me tell you something. You are absolutely, absolutely 100% right. We had a situation that we had a man. If I can give or take his age, because we never figured out how old he really was.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can estimate it, maybe close to maybe 70 or mid 70s. And
Uh-huh.
he had some mental disorders going on. Now, mind you, this is a man that didn't really talk much. He kept to himself. He was homeless. And
Okay.
for some reason, I mean, everybody was just coming around giving this guy food and all this other stuff. And he was just kind of like quiet. He was homeless, but I think people really knew like his mind wasn't all the way there.
Right. And people just say
So
it's
trying
drugs, not
to
always
get
drugs.
him into a shelter was very impossible. Um, no matter when you called, it was all these stipulations of what they needed to have to get into the shelter. First of all, they're not going to be carrying around any type of identification on them, which they require. They want to want these immunization shots that they're supposed to have, that they're not going to have. So how is it that somebody who is homeless on the streets that needs help, and they can't even get it because they have these stipulations for them to be helped? How I know this is because I was calling all these people. There's a diagnostic center in the city of Atlanta that takes in, when they come into the system, they send them to this place, the diagnostic center for homeless, until they start putting them in places that's better fit. If it wasn't for a gentleman that so happened to be walking out of the post office, seen us, talking to this homeless guy, and for some reason he just decided to ask, is there anything that I can help you guys with? And we're saying, yeah, we've been trying to get him in a homeless shelter, but this is the problems that we're having. No lie, he got on the phone, called, he had a direct number to the person of this facility, that I had called earlier that day that told me that I needed all this, he needed all these things to get in. His one phone call got him in without any of those stipulations.
Mm. Now what you do with something
You
like
see
that?
what
It's
I'm
for you.
saying? You know what I'm saying? So
Not
it's
what
like,
you know. It's for you know.
right. He got in there. They, and they were able to put him in. He's older, so like a nursing home, to where he could be taken care of. But you know what? It's very difficult,
Mhm.
and we don't have a lot of advocates on foot soldiers. Okay, I'm talking about foot soldiers that are advocates for mental health, because there's a difference when you see a homeless person who has mental health than somebody who is out there and they're just drugged up. There's a big difference. But see, what happens is people they don't know the difference. Halo, they
Yeah.
think that person's drugged up, and technically he's not. That's a mental disorder.
Yeah.
And if you don't,
Remember we talked about how some of those symptoms are the same.
yeah, they
And you
are.
can
Yeah,
you can kind of
exactly.
tell a crackhead, but like when I was going through some of my delusional things, like when I first went through one of my first episodes and I was running around the house naked and I didn't have no clothes on and I'm hiding in the trunk thinking my family left so I can get out of the trunk, put my clothes back on, and then
Right.
go and and then drive off in the car and never come back. It's like that's kind of what a crackhead might do too. So, um, it's sometimes hard to tell, and other times it's like you're not educated. You
Yeah,
can
you're
look in
not
someone's
educated,
eyes.
and
The
that's what
glazed
this
eye
is.
thing happens too. Like my
Right.
eyes get all big, and you never know what's going
Right.
on.
And Halo, this is why this is important, because they have to be educated. This is it. This is where you can come to a place where you can be educated, looking and showing the difference and what goes on in a person, because we can't be to the point so we're so judgmental that we don't even understand it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And we have better understanding of it. If you go back in history and look at the treatments,
Mm.
if you just go back in history to look at the treatments that were performed on people with these mental disorders. It was brutal.
It was.
It was very brutal. It was very, 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 very brutal. And you know what? There's better approaches to it. We just have to be willing to be open to it. And right here is one of the reasons where we could talk about it. Because if we keep holding it in, it just keeps staying within and manifesting inside of us. Instead of when we let it out, this is where we're set free. This is how we become free, because we continue to talk about it. And when we're talking about it, we're talking it right out of us.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Speaking of treatments, I've learned about some treatments just from meeting people. There's like they have this one like electric shock treatment, but it's not like the old one where they would literally just shock you, and then like
Yeah,
you would be like a whatever potato
it
or
was
whatever.
almost like
But like
it was almost like the electric chair. Okay.
right, like the electric chair. Exactly, that's a better
Yeah,
one.
that's the kind of that's the kind of intense, to the point to where they ain't killing you all the way, but doggone it, they're dang near getting close to it.
Yeah, there's a new one now that's actually very, very helpful, and it like will cause you to have to get on less medication, and like
Hmm.
it just it like endures your good health for like a longer period of time. They have like spinal treatments now. There's of course there's medication, and of course there's therapy. There's like food, like different foods and things like that you can use.
Yep.
There's like a
There's,
lot
and
of
who's
stuff.
another one, and who is another one that's good for it is chiropractor.
Yeah.
The
That's
chiropractor, and you know why? A lot of people don't know this, but um, the chiropractor deals with the central nervous system in the body.
mm-hmm.
So when the central nervous system is out of alignment, so are all the other things that are working inside of you, because the central nervous system is what controls everything inside of us. But people
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. They don't know that they just think, oh, I got a back injury and I go to cut. No, it's way more than that. Literally, way more than that. They get you aligned so your central nervous system is aligned with it. And when that is aligned, that means that everything is working properly. So people don't really understand that part. And so that chiropractor is a big also where you can apply and get that going too.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish
Hmm.
I knew more. I'm gonna have to do some research, maybe call my friend up again and figure out exactly what she did for her spinal treatment. But it
Hmm.
was yeah, she changed a lot and she got a lot better And she was doing a lot of like just I mean I don't really remember because it's been so long, but and I'm not really in the best headspace right now. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little stressed, but like if I could remember, I'm gonna have to look it up because it's gonna be helpful for somebody. Because I know a lot of people
Mhm.
are against pills. A lot of people, especially African Americans, hate putting their kids on medication when they have issues.
Right.
And I'm saying there's other ways as well. If you don't want to do that, they're not going to be as effective probably. I'm sure a little
All,
medication
and
is
like
not
you
going
said,
to
you
kill
you
you.
just don't know. You just don't know until you try. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? You
for
just don't
sure.
know until you try to see if it don't work. I mean, then we move on to the next. One thing is that we don't stop. We don't
Exactly.
stop. And then, like you said, you're feeling a little stressed out today. Just the one thing about when you think about stress, that it's only temporary. It's not
Yeah,
everlasting. With stress too, we don't want to get overly stressed, but some stress that keeps us from getting too comfortable too. So it depends what kind of
that's true.
stress you're talking about. If it's a stress because it's actually pushing you to have you do better, then that's a
You
different
stress.
kind of stress. You know what I'm saying? That stress is there to do that, to push. Don't
Hmm.
get too comfortable. You got things to do. So yeah, I never. But you know what? One thing about this is that God doesn't put nothing on us that we can't handle.
That's for sure.
You know
And
what
there's
I'm
always
saying? And
a
we get to the
purpose.
point. You know what? And another thing is we got to get to the point to where we believe without a doubt that you know what, I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna put in my effort in, and if I put my effort in, God's gonna carry me on through. He's my strength. So don't even think about it, honey. You ain't stressed. That's what you gotta tell yourself. You ain't. Hey, it may feel like it may look like it, but my mind's gonna tell me you ain't stressed. I gotta keep going.
Keep pushing
You-
always.
I know, but tonight was good. You guys were gonna it was a little shorter on today, but that doesn't mean anything. We had some really key points to give you guys, and we're gonna be coming back not next Sunday, but the Sunday after. And we will have another topic. So we look forward to getting with you guys. But if all hearts are clear, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Stay blessed. Bye.
Bye.